Do you have to paint some walls in your home and you're wondering to yourself, what sheen of paint should I buy? How many gallons? What tools do I need? And how do I actually even paint a wall? If so, then you're in luck, because I'm going to do my very best to give you a crash course on how to paint walls. A speed run, if you will. Yo, what's cracking? I'm Jeremy. I've been painting homes just like yours professionally for over 20 years now, and this channel is dedicated to helping you paint your home. In this video, I'm going to go over the paint and tools you'll need to paint your walls, the steps involved in the process, and the techniques you'll need to paint your walls. Let's get into it with paint and tools. So nowadays, all the wall paints you're going to be running into are going to be water-based paints, so you don't need to spend too much time worrying about that piece of it. And as far as sheens go, the most common sheens for walls are matte, eggshell, and satin. The higher the sheen, the more durable the finish is going to be, but also the more defects in the walls it'll show. If the room you're painting doesn't get much traffic, like a living room or an office, so nobody's banging around into the walls, then matte is a great option. If you have a higher traffic area like hallways, family rooms, powder rooms, or if you have small children like I do, then I'd recommend going with an eggshell or satin finish. I included satin in this because if you're used to using Sherwin-Williams paints like Duration and Emerald, they don't have an eggshell sheen in those products, but they do have a satin, and the satin really is much closer to an eggshell from other brands. So just be aware of that. But once you have the sheen dialed in, then you've got to figure out how much paint you actually need. 1 gallon of wall paint typically covers between 350 and 400 square feet of wall space. So you can do some basic calculations to determine the square footage of wall space. You just need the length and the height of the walls you'll be painting. You multiply the length times the height, then add up those numbers for all the walls you're going to be doing in the room. I'd recommend doubling that number so you account for 2 coats. And again, I don't want to get too hung up on this part of the process, so if you want a shortcut to determining how much paint you need, then here are a few tips. Most rooms in a typical residential home, like bedrooms, living rooms, dining rooms, take 2 gallons of paint to do 2 coats on the walls. If you're still unsure about how much paint you need, then just start with a gallon or 2 and get more as needed. That'll help you avoid overbuying paint. So now you've got your paint squared away, you are going to need some tools to apply it. I'm just going to cover some basics here, and I'll explain how to get my complete supply list at the end of this section. The application method I would recommend for applying the wall paint is with a combination of a brush and roller. You'll need a decent brush for cutting in the walls, and it does make a big difference. There are a great many brushes that work well. I have my preferences, which I'm going to get to in a second. I know guys really like squared off brushes. Some people like sashed oval brushes. There's just so many to choose from. What I have noticed when I've trained new painters and DIYers to paint, the brush that they tend to do the best with right off the bat is a 2.5 inch or 2 inch sashed brush. My preferred one is the Corona Cortez. This is an excellent brush, works really well, it holds a decent amount of paint, and because it has an angle on it, it just tends to be easier to get into certain areas that you're cutting around, and I've just noticed with beginner painters, they tend to be less frustrated with this as opposed to like a 3 inch squared off brush. So again, you want to try and find a brush that you're comfortable with. Corona Cortez's is where I would recommend starting. For rolling, I would recommend using a 9 inch or a 14 inch roller setup. These work well, you get good coverage and all that good stuff. So whichever one of these you choose, you'll need the accompanying roller cover and pan setup that fit each of these. I'd also recommend using a roller extension pole paired with your roller frame. That makes the process quite a bit faster and gives you better leverage while you're rolling, saves your back, a lot of other things. Definitely use a roller extension. You're also going to need some drop cloths to cover up your floors and a ladder to be able to reach the top of your walls. There are some other useful tools for this process that I'm not going to go over in this video, but if you would like my complete list of tools, supplies, paints, and primers I recommend from Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, Lowe's, and Home Depot, then you can get all that by joining my free school community, which is also called Paint Your Home Now. Currently, we have over 2,800 members, and there are a lot of useful resources in there. You can even post your questions and get them answered by folks like myself. I'm in there all the time helping people out, and it's great because you can even post pictures along with your questions, which really helps me and other painters give accurate answers. Anyways, I will leave a link in the description in case you're interested. Onward to the steps involved in painting your walls. This is just going to be a quick overview of the linear progression of painting a wall. I'm not going to get hung up on each step, and then I'm going to circle back to the main techniques in the third section of this video. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do, we need to do some prep in the room. You wanna gain access to the walls, so it's a good idea to center the furniture in the middle of the room. You wanna remove wall hangings, drapes, posters, outlet covers, all of that stuff. Then go ahead and tarp the room off. I like using plastic over top of the furniture and then cloth, drop cloths on the perimeter of the room up against the walls. Then you wanna go ahead and do some wall prep. If your walls are a little sketchy to begin with and they have a lot of texture or a little schmutz on them, it's a good idea to take a sanding disc and just sand the walls with like 100 or 150 grit sandpaper. You can do that by hand as well if you don't have a sanding disc. Then you want to go ahead and patch any holes in the wall with joint compound or spackle. Once your repaired areas are dry, you can go ahead and sand them with 150 grit sandpaper and then prime with a basic multi-purpose primer. Pretty much any primer will do, so don't get too hung up on that part of it. And because we're just talking about painting the walls, it's a good idea to tape off the baseboards before you start actually applying the paint. I like using 1.5" yellow frog tape. That works really well. You can tape out more of that if you need to, but I'll talk about that a little bit later when we get in the technique portion. Because we're rolling the walls, the rollers tend to kick off little droplets of paint, and you just want to avoid getting that on your baseboards, particularly if you're not going to be painting them. So once the room's all prepped out, it's time to actually apply paint to the wall, and we're going to start by cutting in the walls with our brush. Usually paired with an edging container of sorts. But what you're gonna do is basically you're gonna create a 2 to 4 inch line and outline the wall everywhere where the roller can't get to. So you're gonna cut on the inside corners of the walls, up against the baseboard, around window trim, door casings, all of that stuff, around outlets, things like that. And then also the line between the wall and the ceiling. And once the walls are cut in, it's time to go ahead and roll them with your roller setup. The roller is really gonna be the thing that's gonna apply the most paint to the room. It's kind of what provides the texture to the entire room. So you're gonna go ahead and roll the walls. Once you give them about an hour or two to dry, you can go ahead and do some additional repairs if you need to. If you notice any roughness in the finish, like little chunks of stuff, bits of paint, nap from the roller, anything like that, you can sand those areas with 150 grit sandpaper or 220 grit if you prefer. Once the first coat is dry, then you can go ahead and do the same steps you did for the first coat and do your second coat. So cut in the walls again and then roll again. Once the second coat dries, then you can pull tape and do any touch-ups you need to, then reassemble the room. All right, so that was just a quick overview of the steps involved in painting a wall. Now I'm gonna get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty of the techniques involved in actually applying the paint. So I'm gonna start with cutting in. In general, folks that are new to painting struggle with cutting in the most, and for good reason. It can be really frustrating because if you watch a good painter cut in, they're doing it really quickly. It doesn't look like it's all that difficult, and then when you go to try and do it yourself, it's one of the things that frustrates people the most. It's just one of those painting skills that takes some time and reps to develop. It takes a lot of dexterity and fine motor function to keep a brush nice and level, particularly when you're doing kind of straight lines out in the open. So I'll just cover a few finer points here. One thing to do that just makes it easier, and this doesn't involve any skill whatsoever, is if you're using an edging container like this one, the handy paint pail that's got a magnet on it, just don't overfill this. Fill it about halfway up. That way, when you go to put your brush back on the magnet, just the tips of your bristles are sticking in the paint. And then when you go to actually apply paint on the walls and load the brush, I've seen a lot of different techniques. Everyone kind of has their own spin on it, but what I found for folks that are just starting out, what's really helpful is to just dip the paint about like 2 inches worth of bristles in your paint and then wipe the excess off one side and then go ahead and start your line. One point to consider that doesn't involve any skill at all, it's just a logistics thing, is if you can pick one direction and stick to it as you move through the room, that helps you out quite a bit, particularly on coat number 2. One of the things that people run into is they lose track of where they are in the room, and it just can be confusing. You may have missed spots, things like that. I like moving clockwise around the room. My brother tends to go counterclockwise. Whichever way you choose, just try and stick to it, and then just try and cut in one complete wall at a time and then move to the next one. And again, if you are really struggling to have good brush control as you brush up against the trim, even the ceiling line, which I'll get to in a second, you can tape out more than just the baseboard. You can tape out the sides of door frames, around window trim, and then you can even tape out the ceiling line between the wall and the ceiling. Yellow frog tape works really well for that as well. The trickiest cut-in for most people is the line between the top of the wall and the ceiling. because it's rarely is that a perfect 90. You don't really have a good thing to follow. And then for that line, you just want the appearance of a straight line from someone standing on the ground. It's rarely actually a straight line if you look at it dead on. So a couple tips I have for that one is as you start that line, I don't like ever doing it where my head is pressed up against the ceiling. I want to be a little bit lower so I'm looking up at the line, because that's how everyone else who's going to be in that room is going to see it. You want to put your brush on the wall below where the line's going to be, so you kind of brush off some of the excess paint, and then you're going to come back and work that paint up into the crease between the ceiling and the wall. Most of the time it's better to run the paint a little bit further up on the ceiling than too low on the wall. Too low on the wall tends to look a little bit weird. But again, if you're uncomfortable with that cut in, you can always tape that out. And then one other thing with cutting in, when you're just trying to do straight lines that are kind of just out in the ether, you'll see a lot of painters kind of brush the excess off and then pull the line, and then others will push it. I wouldn't get too hung up on that. If you paint long enough, you're going to be doing a combination of both. So just try and just have a uniform looking line, and then don't have too much paint on the brush as you work it up into the line. You want big globs getting up on the ceiling and things like that. One other little bonus tip for this section: as soon as you're done cutting in, you're gonna be taking a break for a little bit or whatever. If you have an edging container like this and you put your brush back in the paint, like on this magnet, just make sure you cover this in plastic. That'll keep the paint from drying out, the bristles drying out, and creating all kinds of problems for you when you go to start cutting in again. And if you're not using an edging container like this, you can also just wrap the brush in cling wrap, and that'll save the brush until you're ready to use it again. It works really great. Now onward to rolling, and rolling's a little bit more straightforward than cutting in. It tends to be one of the techniques that people get comfortable with the soonest. And the roller is what's going to be covering most of the surface of the walls. And the goal is still a uniform finish, which means you're trying to apply an even coating of paint on the walls with the same texture everywhere. So as with cutting in, I'd recommend choosing one direction and sticking to it, either clockwise or counterclockwise. It becomes very important when you get to coat number 2 to stay on track with where you are in the room. So once you're ready to roll, you're going to attach your roller extension pole to the frame, and then you want to load the roller up in your pan. One of the things that helps with loading the roller is if you pre-soak it a little bit with water. And I don't mean like soaked through, just moist is good. Usually what I do is just get some water on my hand and just kind of work it into the fibers of the roller. That just helps the roller pull in paint more quickly and get loaded fairly quickly with paint. Once the roller is loaded and you put the roller on the wall, you want to start it in the middle of the wall so you don't have way too much paint on the roller close to the ceiling where you can't spread it out, or the same thing too close to the baseboard. You may have seen other painters as well. As soon as they load the roller, they'll do kind of like a W in the middle of the wall. And what that's doing is just getting all the excess paint onto the wall, so that when you're doing your vertical overlapping stripes and coming over those sections, the roller cover's picking up more paint and then spreading it evenly. However you choose to do that, the main thing is that you don't want heavy build spots on the wall. You want the same even coating all throughout. But what you're going to end up doing is applying the paint with vertical overlapping stripes. And you just want to keep even pressure on the roller as you're doing it. One of the things that I see people making a mistake with is they try and roll too many lines with one dip in the pan, and they're like wringing out the roller cover like a sponge. You want this thing to stay fairly soaked with paint pretty much all the time. You're not trying to wring it out every time. What that'll do is compress the roller. It starts to not have its springiness, and then that'll start to affect the texture that's going on the walls. And some things you want to avoid while you're rolling is you want to avoid lap marks and heavy build areas, other things like raspberries, which are basically like big globs of paint in the finish. One of the things that really helps with that is having really good lighting on the walls you're painting. You can use work lights and shine them directly on the surface you're painting. I also really like using my flashlight clipped to my hat, and then I can shine that right on the area that I'm working in. It really helps me see exactly what's going on with the finish. And as you roll, what you're trying to do is roll kind of halfway or as deep as you can into your cut-ins, so that the majority of the wall is the texture that the roller is producing. One of the things that really helps with a uniform looking finish, where you don't have, we call them painter holidays, where you've had big miss spots, or the kind of the finish looks patchy, is just doing 2 coats. Paint rolls really well over top of itself. You're just going to get better coverage, and the second coat goes way faster. So I highly recommend doing 2 coats, regardless of what it says on the can. 1 coat coverage is pretty much a myth. And one little bonus tip for this section is that when you're done rolling a section or you're ready to take a break for a little while, is to cover your pan with a trash bag and get it nice and tight so that the paint doesn't dry out. What'll happen is the paint in the pan will dry out, then when you go to roll again, you're gonna get all kinds of paint chunks in the roller, and there are a few things in life more frustrating than you rolling paint on the wall and huge chunks coming off of the roller. It's no bueno. All right, so that was my little overview on how to paint walls if you are new to painting. And if you're still having problems cutting in the ceiling lines, you can check out this video right over here where I go over more thoroughly how to get straight lines in whatever room you're painting. Until next time, take it easy, work smart, and have a good one. Peace.